Welcome to Watch It Real. I'm Ira Jersey, the men's general manager for Real Central New Jersey Soccer. With me today is a USL League Two alum. It's Eric Klenofsky. He played at Monmouth University and then for two different teams in New Jersey in USL League Two. Back then it was called the Premier, PDL. Which is the Players Development League. Is that right?
Premier Development League.
Premier Development League. There we go.
Yep.
And then he was drafted by DC United and now plays for Toronto FC in their organization and had nine starts last year for Toronto FC 2, the second team in USL League One for Toronto FC. So Eric, thanks very much for coming on Watch It Real.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, man. Yeah, happy to be here.
So a little bit later, I'll be embarrassing you, or we'll actually be looking at your highlights, not your lowlights. I did look for your lowlights, and I did just
they're somewhere. They're somewhere.
Play with things. So you're a Jersey boy, right? You grew up in northern New Jersey, but you went to university in central New Jersey. So what led you, I guess, firstly to play in central New Jersey? So presumably, you had multiple offers perhaps from universities, and what made you pick Monmouth?
Yeah, so I had a little bit of a whirlwind recruiting experience. It never really goes to plan for anybody, but my junior year, my team at the time, TSF Academy, took a trip to Dallas Cup to play in the tournament down in Texas, and we played FC Dallas in the first game and we lost. But I played well, and the SMU assistant coach was at our game, and I get an email after the game, asking me to come down to campus for a visit. And during that time, there was no Uber or Lyft or anything like that, and even if it did exist, my BlackBerry at the time probably wouldn't have been able to get any apps or anything like that. So, so it was one of those trips where, there weren't too many parents that came with us. There was maybe one or two parents, and I was there on my own. So I got this email from the coach, and, he goes, you want to come down to campus? So I was like, yeah, 100%. That was kind of like my first real interest from any schools. So I ended up walking to my first college visit. It was about 1.5 miles down the highway from my hotel. So I went to SMU for my first visit, and, things moved rather quickly into junior year, summer, going into senior year, and I ended up committing to SMU. So I got something that a lot of high schoolers get very naively, something called senioritis. And my perception of what a college coach could do for me was a little skewed at the time. And I was like, I'm an All-American. I'm really good. My grades are okay. It'll be fine, right? So we get to, April of my senior year, signing day is starting to come around, and I get a call the day before signing day saying, hey, bud, you didn't get into school. We're going to have to give your scholarship to somebody else, and sorry to be the bearer of bad news. And it's the spring of my senior year, and I'm like, oh, geez, what did I get myself into? And I obviously had to break the news to my parents, and they were just thrilled about that. So thankfully, I was in a pretty good position. So, the next day obviously was pretty embarrassing. Everybody's like, oh, Eric's signing for SMU, but that obviously doesn't happen. So I actually had a note from my guidance counselor saying, if Eric gets a call from a college coach, he can pick it up in class and walk down to school. So I was an All-American at the time, and I was getting, a phone call every 15 minutes. And one of those phone calls happened to be from Coach McCourt at Monmouth University, and so thankful for that phone call. But it happened rather quickly. Signing day, I think, was supposed to be a Monday. We started talking on that Monday because obviously I ended up not signing. And then Tuesday, I was down in West Long Branch on a visit with my mom and walking around campus with Coach McCourt and Coach Hugh. And things developed very quickly again, and I ended up committing to Monmouth. And what a great experience. So thankful that it worked out that way. And yeah, that's how I kind of made it to Central Jersey. A lot more Texas than you expected, right?
Yeah, a lot more Texas. A story that is absolutely fascinating and obviously has an important moral, right? Something that you could teach
100%.
to aspiring student athletes, right? And
Yep.
that's don't forgo your grades, especially your senior year.
100%.
Um,
100%.
yeah, so I think we all know something about senioritis and trying
Yes,
to
in
make
some
sure that we don't
regard.
get it. So I have to say, I've spoken to your goalkeeper coach when you were at Monmouth, Alex Blackburn, who is also another Central New Jersey connection. He's now down at in Greenville, South Carolina, as the goalkeeper coach and I guess senior first assistant coach or whatever he wants to
Yes.
call himself for John Hark's team at the Greenville Triumph in
Yeah.
USL League One. How was the coaching significantly different from your club teams to when you went to university? What was there a significant difference in coaching, or is goalkeeping, specialized enough that it was almost a natural progression?
Oh my God, it was like a whole nother world. It was like a whole nother world. So thankful for the experiences that I had at TSF and at DePaul Catholic. I'm a firm believer that it takes a village to raise a man, and the people there brought me forward in so many ways. But there came a time very early, I would say, that I got into being a goalkeeper where I was training, like, okay, let's say I was 13 to 15 years old, and I was already training with the oldest kids at the club, and it was almost like maybe there wasn't enough challenge. There wasn't enough challenge from the 18-year-old goalkeepers at the time, and it was a lot more growth that I had to go through psychologically, I would say, from academy to high school before I got to college. So technically, at the time, we were comparing Eric to the other goalkeepers in the academy at the time. A lot of very good goalkeepers, but when we were comparing me to them at the time, there wasn't much to talk about, and I felt like we at times were resting on, Eric is very athletic, he's massive, he's got decent feet, and I felt like I eclipsed that pretty quick. But that being said, I felt very loyal to. So the owner of TSF was also my high school coach at DePaul Catholic, and has done so much for me, even beyond my high school time. And he's been an incredible mentor for me. That being said, I was 18 years old and I got to Monmouth, and Blackburn goes, you dive backwards. You're supposed to be diving forwards, right? And I was like, are you sure? I just.
That's amazing. I mean, it's something that these little tweaks sometimes, I think, between being a good goalkeeper and a great goalkeeper, or even being a good player and a great player, could just be that one little thing, right? That
Yeah, I would
moves it.
love to say that it was just like kind of one little thing. But when I say that I was raw at 17, 18 years old, that could not be more true. I had a lot of positive qualities about me, but there was still so much, there was such a technical component that was really missing. Just thinking retrospectively. And Blackburn was huge on that. Blackburn, this is why I say everything happens for a reason. Thank God that SMU didn't work out. I mean, what a program, what a school. But thank God that it didn't work out, because I don't know if I'm a pro if I don't go to Monmouth. If I don't spend that pivotal time in Central Jersey, I don't know if I'm a professional soccer player. And I say that very truthfully, very honestly. I think Blackburn, Huey, and Coach McCourt were that instrumental in me becoming a professional soccer player.
Well, I want to ask you when you thought that you would consider going pro, or did you think when you went into college that going pro was something you had anticipated doing or would like to have done?
I remember at 11 years old having a conversation with my mom and dad saying, we're going to go to this team, not this team, because it's going to give me the best chance to be a professional soccer player. So I was thinking about it from as early as I can remember. And I have had multiple conversations that I can recall from 11 years old, younger, into my teenage years of, this has always been something that I've been very adamant about what I want to do. So that was always a thought process going into high school. That played a hand in the high school that I went to. That played a huge hand in obviously the college that I went to. And from the jump, I walked into Coach McCourt's office, and this was something that we were discussing on that first visit and how we were going to make it happen. And, taking this amount of classes during this time period so that you can be ready whenever an opportunity comes, or if you are good enough come senior year to get drafted, we want to have as many credits done. So I would take summer classes all throughout every summer. So while I was at Ocean City, while I was playing with the Red Bulls, I was taking online classes and doing all these kinds of things to prepare myself to be a pro and be ready and finished with my degree when that day came. And thankfully, I only had like 4 credits when I left.
And
so.
you were clearly a communications major, or at least a minor, because that was the perfect segue into our next segment, talking about the other soccer that you played while you were at Monmouth. So Division I soccer, a MAC team. MAC, unfortunately, today said that they weren't going to play this fall at all, which is disappointing. Rider University is right down the street, and Charlie Inverso, the coach there, is very supportive of us, as is Coach McCourt over at Monmouth University, which is great to see college coaches really embracing the idea of getting some of their players more playing time. Talk to us about how you wound up at the Nor'easters, how much interaction there was or suggestion there was from your college coaches for you to go play during the summer at a League Two, then PDL team.
Yeah, that was always something that I had in mind. So my U18 TSF Academy coach, Dan Christian, actually played 5 years as a pro for the South Jersey Barons. And actually...
USISL team, wow.
Yes, throwback. So I think he also played in college, or I'm pretty sure he went to Elizabethtown College, which is also the school that Tim Oswald, the head coach at the time for the Ocean City Nor'easters, went to the same school. So Dan and I had talked about the Ocean City Nor'easters when I was 18, because when I was 18, I was already trying to find a semi-pro team to play for in the summer. So the summer leading up to my freshman year in college, I played in the NPSL for what was the Morris County Colonials, which I think is now the Jersey Blues. I don't even know if they exist anymore, to be honest with you. This is a USL 2 podcast. My apologies.
No worries. This is your forum.
Yeah, so I played for the Colonials my summer going into freshman year, and I had talked to Dan. I was like, hey, is Ocean City Nor'easters realistic? Is it possible at some point? And he was like, we'll talk about it, play for the Colonials this summer, have a good year at Monmouth, and then we'll go from there. So I actually reached out to Coach Oswald, I believe in December of my freshman year. And I knew that spots were going to fill up quick, and it was something that I wanted to do. So I reached out and I was like, hey, I'm available. I'm really interested. And I think I was like maybe one of like 2 or 3 New Jersey players that were on the Nor'easters. Everybody else was international, but it was such a good experience, such a good mesh of talent, and just a really good experience in general.
So you went from that summer, you went back and played at Monmouth in the fall, and then you ended up playing for the New York Red Bulls 3, I guess, or New York Red Bulls U23.
Yeah.
But we Red Bulls fans, because I happen to be a Red Bulls supporter. Sorry, I know you're a Red. I'm a Red Bull.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
So yeah, you wound up playing for them. How did that happen? The switch from the Nor'easters in South Jersey up to North Jersey, playing for the Red Bulls.
Well, I mean, keeping in mind that the goal is to be a professional soccer player, at some point you want to cycle towards a professional organization, right? Ocean City was a great step in the journey, but it was a step toward the ultimate goal and towards moving forward as a soccer player in general.
Well, I guess my question is more like, did you reach out to them? Did they scout you and see you play in League Two? So therefore they asked you to play for them. So what was the process like? Was it a push or a pull, I guess, is what I'm asking.
So Coach McCourt pushed that for sure. That being said, I played for Ocean City Nor'easters for 2 summers. So I was there my freshman and sophomore year, and then my junior year summer was at the Red Bulls. And up until that point, as a junior, I had a decent college career thus far. And they had brought me in to some training sessions in December and January of my junior year. So coach got me into those sessions, and I performed well. And we played some friendlies. I did okay. In the inter squad scrimmages when I was a junior that winter, and Coach McCord is the one that got me into that position. And then after those few, I would say 2 or 3 weeks of training sessions with the under 23s and some with the second team, the coach at the time, Rob Elliott, asked if I was good for the summer, and he didn't have to ask me twice, and I was in. I was in for sure.
So what was that experience like? Because presumably you were up at Whippany training at the Red Bulls training facility versus wherever the Nor'easters were training, presumably local field.
Yeah.
Obviously you had, full locker rooms, presumably, and things like that in Whippany that you didn't have necessarily for the Nor'easters. So describe what that was like. There's just the feeling that kind of the first time you walked into the Red Bulls training facility.
Yeah, Red Bull is an incredible organization, and a really there's a really good culture there. Red Bull is very professional in how they go about their business, and we were treated like professionals in a lot of aspects. And thinking back to the goalkeepers, first of all, from Ocean City Nor'easters to Red Bull under 23, the goalkeepers that I was competing with were incredible. At Red Bull under 23s, the 1 year that I was there, it was myself, Michael Lansing, who plays in the Danish Superliga right now, Evan Loro, who is the starter for Tampa Bay Rowdies, and Bobby Edwards, who just signed for FC Cincinnati. So the goalkeeper core there was unbelievable. So the day-to-day training was a fantastic level. And it's kind of like a really interesting, position for USL too, because we're all on the same team and we all want to be professional soccer players, but at the same time this is all training for us to be successful come the fall, right? So there was a really good working relationship amongst the four of us, walking in that first day, before I had gone to Red Bull under 23s, I actually trained with Sporting Kansas City this summer before for about 2 weeks, and then also trained with the New York Cosmos for about a week my sophomore year summer. So I had a little taste of what a professional organization was kind of like, but being day to day with Red Bull and being just bumping elbows with guys that are on the first team now and guys that really were going places was a really good experience, and one that was pivotal for me in terms of moving forward and becoming a professional soccer player.
Well, our job's going to be to try and be the giant slayers, and Reading United with their relationship with the Union, and New York Red Bulls U23s with their relationship with the New York Red Bulls. Obviously, our job is to try to figure out how to beat them. But
I got some ideas if you want them.
I will offline. I'll DM you. Don't worry. We 100% will do that. Especially given your pedigree at Toronto. Toronto's beaten the Red Bulls more than once for sure. I've been there and been painful. But we've trained on the same pitch because this is something that I brought up every show so far, and I need to I guess kind of embrace my form. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm just trying to embrace my narcissism here. So I did the Red Bulls fantasy camp, and I still have a little bit of a vertical. This was 2 years ago. Unfortunately, our head coach says that my vertical is not as good. It was the camera angle, and it was some.
And that's why they released you.
Yeah, exactly. That's why. I had a 3-day contract that Jesse Marsh signed in 2017 and 2018. Chris Armas signed my 3-day contract, and it was okay. I scored on Red Bull Arena's pitch.
There you go. That's great.
That's all that matters to me. But we are going to do something because we always end our show. Well, I have one last thing to talk to you about, of course, because after you left the Red Bulls U23s, you played at Monmouth your senior year, and then you put yourself up into the MLS Draft. And
yes.
if memory serves, was that the Philadelphia year or was that Chicago?
Manhattan Beach, LA.
Manhattan Beach, it was LA. Okay, yep. So it was a year before. So you go to the United Soccer Coaches Convention for the MLS Draft out in Manhattan Beach, which they don't do anymore. It was a spectacle. I went in a couple of years in Philly, Chicago, and Baltimore, and it was a great experience. I think for the players who were drafted, those who weren't, probably not as much. So you're sitting there waiting for your name to be called. You're not sure if it's going to be called. What's the feeling like, and what is all the whispers with the other players that might be around you, or your parents or whoever, about, hey, is your name going to get called? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Oh my God. So much stress. So much stress. There's actually a funny story with that. So the day before, I had already signed a senior deal before the draft. So there was a very good chance that I was going to get taken at some point. But the day before the draft, you obviously.
Out of curiosity, how does that work? You signed a senior deal with an MLS team or with a championship team? Oh, with an MLS team. Okay, so you knew you were going pro. It was just a matter of where.
Yeah, I signed a senior deal with the MLS before the day before. So I had signed, and it was just who needed a goalkeeper at that point and who wanted to take a chance on me. So the day before, obviously, you have like media training and a bunch of meetings to prepare for the draft. And the guy, I forget his name, but he organizes the draft and shows the players where they need to go and all these kinds of things. And he's explaining to us how, they don't serve breakfast the morning of the draft. And I'm like, that's weird. Why don't you serve breakfast the morning of the draft? And he was like, guys tend to overeat at breakfast because they're nervous, and then become more nervous as the day goes on, and then end up throwing up at some point during the day because they've overeaten, and then they're incredibly anxiety stricken. So I was like, oh my God, I'm not eating anything. And my mom, I remember my mom was there. My mom, my dad, my best friend Rainier, and then his father also flew out. So it was a really great experience. But I remember my mom was like, are you sure you're not going to eat anything? Are you sure you're not going to eat anything? And I didn't get taken until I think I was 32nd or 34th.
You were 34th. Yeah, you were like second
yeah,
round. Right.
Yeah. So that takes some time. That takes some real time. So the draft probably started at like 11, 12 o'clock, and I don't think I got drafted until like 3:30 or something like that. So I was starving. And my best friend went and bought popcorn, and I remember like eating popcorn like in between picks, and my agent was like, Eric, we're on TV, like you can't do that right now. I'm just like, oh my God, I'm starving, dude. You have no idea the stress that I'm under right now. I need some popcorn. But yeah, it was definitely a very stressful day for sure, especially as other goalkeepers get taken. I think I was taken like third or fourth of the goalkeepers that day. So goalkeeper starts to go. I'm like, all right, I gotta be coming soon. And then around the 30th pick, my agent tapped me on the shoulder and was like, DC is going to take you at 34. And I was like, thank God. And there was so much stress because like my family had flown out, my friend had flown out, and I was like, oh my God, please let me get drafted today. And it was a whirlwind of emotions, let's say, but a great experience for sure.
So since then, you went DC. You ended up in Toronto, where you are now. I would like to show a little bit of soccer here, and so I pulled up some of these things. This is your highlight clip from the USL League One season last year. Like I said, you had 9 starts. You had 3 clean sheets. And you stopped Ronaldo Damus right there, who was the Golden Boot winner in USL League One last year. Not many people get to do a right-footed save. So out of curiosity, when you do that, when you make that save, and let's just back up here just a little tiny bit and just take a look at your form. When someone's one-on-one with you like this, what do you think about? Is it just making yourself big? Like what's the kind of, I don't want to say thought process, but what's the automatic reaction function that you have to have in this scenario?
Well, first of all, I'm processing a lot of information as fast as I can, and I'm responding to that in a way. So, Ronaldo Damus coming inside, that creates a response for me. So if there wasn't a defender on him, that would have been maybe I would have taken up a different position. But right now, I'm in a position where it's pretty isolated, right? It's a 1v1, and I'm trying to stay balanced. I'm trying to stay as balanced as possible because more often than not, if I'm in the right position, based on my size, the ball is going to get scored on me from this type of range within a yard or two to my left or right or above me. So as long as I'm staying balanced and I'm honoring my reaction speed and betting on myself and forcing him to beat me, as long as I'm in the right spot and I'm taking up the right positions based on what the game is giving me, I have a very good chance of making this save. So something that I am thinking about here is trying to not get too low, because if I get too low in this situation with my hands, then I'm sacrificing everything above me, right? So my size, if I'm staying just maybe a little bit more upright and I have my hands just a little bit higher than maybe the norm would, maybe a smaller goalkeeper would, my feet can cover down below. As you can see, and as you'll see in future clips, if I let my feet do the job and I'm proficient with attacking the ball forward with my feet, I can cover a lot of goal, right? So staying balanced, being in the right position, and then at that point, it's just zoning in, exhaling, and just responding as naturally as you can, and results in a save.
Let's try and run through this, because there are a couple more foot saves here. Here's Orlando that had a pretty potent attack sometimes, but a very leaky defense. And there's your left-footed save. So exactly going on the other side. So, obviously in a situation like this, it's a tie game. You look like you were up for it. How much communication do you have with players outside of the I guess outside of the back line? Obviously you help organize the back line, but is there other communication that you have to do in the game in order to, reduce the chances of additional goals being scored on you?
100%. There's so many situations where I'll have communications with other players outside of the back line. I mean, pretty much every set piece, for sure. And then obviously I'll play a decent hand depending on how we're building out in how we're going about, just because of the way that TFC plays. I'll have a decent hand in being pretty connected with, my defensive midfielders and the 8s or the 10, so another factor is how many fans or not are in the stadium, right? So if it's
another Ronaldo Damas save there, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I said this to you before, and this is no disrespect to Ronaldo. Very good player, obviously. I mean, Golden Boot winner, but I had no idea that he was the one making that shot or hitting that ball. I was just responding to the situation and making the save the best I could. But yeah, no, I'm. If we're at BMO training ground and it's relatively quiet, I'll have a decent amount of communication, mostly because guys can hear me. If you're at, when I debuted at Richmond playing for the Richmond Kickers, there were 8,000 fans there. Our number 8 or our number 9, they can't hear me. They can't hear me.
So for those of you who don't know, that's center midfielder or striker. So the number 8's usually a center midfielder, and then a number 9's a striker.
Yes, my apologies, but yeah, it's very dependent.
We can nerd out here. I just have to make sure that everyone who might be new to soccer and doesn't know all the numbers on the field,
for sure.
That what we're talking about. So basically, you're saying when you played for the Kickers down in City Stadium in Richmond, Virginia, the 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people there, you might not be able to yell to midfield. Is that right?
Yeah, it's very situationally dependent, right? Like at BMO training ground, more often than not, people will be able to hear me. Even at Dallas Stadium there, it's when it's empty there for a reserve game, it's much easier for people to hear me. But and that being said, there's a certain leadership role that comes into play as an older goalkeeper on a team, right? So that I take that on as a responsibility. Obviously, there's times where I'm communicating more dependent on the game and obviously, like I said, the fans. But yeah, I would say that more often than not, I'm speaking with much more than just the back line, for sure.
So the goalkeeper role has changed, and as we watch your distribution here from this part of the highlight clip, it used to be when I was growing up, back in the 70s and 80s, the goalkeeper got the ball, they hoofed it upfield, and, they tried to get it into a corner for a speedy winger to run onto. That was the Russian, the kick and rush kind of mentality that came over from England in the 70s. You obviously can use your feet now. How much time do you spend on, learning a little Cruyff turn, or, think about your positioning to distribute the ball and receive the ball if you get a back pass?
Well, I mean, statistically, we're touching the ball with our feet, I don't know what the exact number is, but I think it's like every 10 times we touch the ball with our feet, we're touching it with our hands once. So it's something that we need to be proficient with. It's the way the game is evolving, certainly the way TFC is evolving the position, and it's something that I really enjoy doing. So it's something that we're working on constantly. We spent today.
Speaking of the devil, playing against your old team, the Richmond Kickers.
Yeah, it's something that we work on constantly. We might have spent the first 10, 15 minutes today of goalkeeper training just with our feet, and then even when we got in with the team to do the exercise that we were doing, we were using our hands, but it was much more centered about how we are going to impact the game from a build out perspective as a goalkeeper. So that's kind of it's just the way the game is kind of evolving, and I think it plays into the hand of guys that have always rated themselves as players first and then goalkeepers. And yeah, it's something, like I said, I enjoy. It's something we spend a lot of time on, and it's something that is in the best interest of the game, I think. If I can break the line of a number 9, or that first line that's pressing us, if I can break that line, then that's one less line for the next 10 guys to have to break. So why not utilize that if you can?
So you're looking at what we call packing stats. How many defenders can you beat with your passes? Eric, thank you very much for coming on Watch It Real. So this is my second time, by the way, for those of you who don't know, that I have a podcast where we talk about USL League One. Eric obviously has played, at both the USL League One and USL League Two levels, and we really appreciate him coming on Watch It Real as we build out soccer in Central New Jersey. Eric, so thanks again for coming on Watch It Real.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, Ira.